There is something profoundly wrong in our country.
They're eating the dogs.
And welcome. Guess who we got today? We got Joe Walsh. And I am so glad we do. And I'll tell you why, Joe.
Tell me why.
You make me feel sane. You make me feel sane. Sometimes you feel crazy and somebody comes along and they make you feel sane. And I look at you and I say, you know, I was in the Young Republicans in high school and then I went all the way to a progressive, but you were a Republican congressman. You once said something along the lines of like, if Trump doesn't win, I'm grabbing my musket.
It's my favorite tweet of all time.
A favorite tweet of all time. And here you are, a Democrat, although probably, I would imagine, not ideologically aligned with them, but entirely, but you were certainly ideologically unaligned with the Republicans. And so it is out of opposition. But when somebody has that evolution and you realize, oh, people can change, as I have changed, as you have changed, it gives me hope. It makes me feel like I'm not crazy, that we're not wasting our time, that maybe, because you can't change Trump, you can't change Trump's administration, but maybe we can change the thing that fuels him, and that is the base.
I'll do you one better, Michael.
Okay.
I don't know of any other public figure who's had the same journey I've had.
Yeah.
And I'll explain it like this. Not only was I a Republican congressman, a Republican candidate for president, I was a fucking Tea Party dude.
Yep.
So from the Tea Party to the Democratic Party in 12 years, I don't know of anyone else who's done that. I was MAGA. I voted for Trump in 2016.
Yep.
I'm a reform MAGA gangbanger, and now I'm a Democrat. It's been a wild, bizarro journey that doesn't make sense, but also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Why don't we actually dive into that a little bit? Because I have so many questions for you, but your journey actually started as a social worker, if I'm not mistaken, which kind of sounds very progressive and liberal. I mean, obviously there's the Christian branch of it. Is that where you came out of? No.
I came out of the libertarian branch. I've always, you and I are probably alike. I was always a political nerd. I've always been into politics. I've always been very generally libertarian in my politics. So I was a teacher and a social worker. Why? Because I felt like it was my responsibility to take care of those less fortunate than me and not put that on government. We in the private sector need to do that. So it was more a libertarian philosophy that got me to be a do-gooder.
That is so interesting because when you hear about social workers, you think those are government-funded programs and that anyone that would be doing that work would understand that that is something that is a role of government. But
Yes.
You were actually coming at from the exact opposite angle, which was this shouldn't be a role for government. This should be the personal burden of people that want to see that the change in the world, I guess.
Be your brother's keeper. I took that personally, but you know, the truth is, Michael, a few of the social service organizations I worked for over the years did get some government funding. So yeah, that was also always there. And look, I've evolved. Like when I was in Congress 12 years ago, if you and I were talking, I would have said, no, it's not. There's nothing in the Constitution that says the government needs to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. Government certainly has a role in doing that.
You do feel that way now.
Oh yeah. And yes, I do. And that's an area where I've evolved, grown on. Still very libertarian, but the government plays a role, period.
Yeah. And why would you say that is? Because I know from my progressive ideology, I believe that is because that we all pay the price when society falls apart. That it actually, I always say that like I'm progressive for selfish reasons in a certain way. That if you want to live in a nice city and a nice community and live in a nice country and you want to feel safe, you take care of the people at the bottom and you give them a good education and you keep the streets clean and all those things. and everybody benefits from it. If you let part of society just fall off into absolute despair, that's how you end up, in gated communities. And I always think of South Africa, where like rich people have these cars with flamethrowers under them because carjackings are so often that, like, if somebody runs up to your car, you hit a button and it shoots flames out of it. I'm like, I would rather pay higher taxes than live in a society where we need flamethrowers under our cars.
Well, you and I would probably still disagree on where to draw that line and how much should government do. But you and I would have that conversation, both understanding that government's got to do something and that there are things that the public sector has to do because the private sector will never be incentivized to do enough for the environment, clean air, all the rest, education. The government has to play a role. So there are I'm a big private incentive, private sector guy, but there are areas of life that not only, but the public sector can be more effective and more efficient with.
I probably agree with that to some extent, but would you say, as we move along to modern day, that the public sector, the role would be that if, say, a person lived in Washington, D.C., and they thought the crime rate was very high, that the president should take over the police department and send in the National Guard to do the job of the police?
No.
Would that seem to you to be an overreach?
Not only an overreach, but an unconstitutional overreach and an anti-federalism overreach. I've also always been a big local control, states' rights guy generally. Law enforcement in this country has always been the purview of the state and the local. We are not a country that puts troops on the streets. When we put troops on the streets, the American people got to rise up and resist. What's going on right now, Michael, is just, what's going on now. I did a hit on the BBC last week, and the woman asked me a question. Joe, former Congressman Walsh, is fascism coming to America? Yeah. And I said, no, it's already here. Wow. Fascism is here. And any federal government, any president that would put our military on our streets against our citizens, that is fascism. And that's just one aspect of fascism that's present in this country right now. And you know what, man? Too many Americans are not yet recognizing it.
Yeah, I would certainly say that, but I'm reminded of something that Joseph Goebbels said when the German Reichstag literally voted away their rights. I have the quote here somewhere. Something like, the truth about democracy is it hands the keys to its own destruction to its enemies. And is that what the Republican Party is doing right now? Is they are dismantling our democracy through perhaps legal means? I mean, Donald Trump, a lot of his programs are unheard of. They seem like an overreach, but they seem like they're being held up by the courts. Can we vote away democracy? Is that something you fear?
Oh, yeah. Again, I have a unique perspective because I come from the right. I come from MAGA and the Tea Party. I've said now publicly for a number of years that the right in this country, where I come from, has given up on democracy. They no longer care about the rule of law or the Constitution. They've got this, and they've told me this repeatedly. They want a certain America back. Hey, Joe, I want 1954 back. And Joe, democracy can't get that back. So what I need is a strong man, a dictator, to get me that America back. Michael, if I had $1 for every time a Trump supporter's told me that over the last 7 years, I'd be a wealthy dude.
Well, that gets me to another question, though, because this is something I was wondering, is beyond the Trump supporter, is this something, what's going on behind the scenes? What do you know these people in Congress, as you've talked to me about previously. These are your former friends. Some of them possibly are still your friends. Are some of them freaking out? Are they going, holy cow, this is really happening? We're actually becoming a fascist country? Or are the majority of them like, hey, this is what it's going to take for us to have the America we want? And maybe the democracy thing wasn't really working out, but we're still going to have whatever, a beautiful country. I mean, I highly doubt any of them see it as some sort of, apocalyptic end times scenario. I'm sure that they think that these are all good things.
Oh, it's the latter, Michael.
Yeah.
My former colleagues, it's the latter. I can get into private arguments with my former Republican colleagues, and they'll say, Joe, we're not a democracy. I mean, the average MAGA dude, former voter of mine out on the street will say that whenever I say Trump is anti-democracy. Joe, we're not a democracy, man.
Yeah. Democratic Republic.
Yeah. But even former Republican colleagues in the House and the Senate will go down that route as well. I think I said this to you before. When I publicly came out against Trump 7.5 years ago, damn near every one of my Republican colleagues called me privately and said, Joe, I agree with every fucking thing you're saying about Trump, but I can't say that, and I won't say that. All of my former Fox News buddies and right-wing radio buddies said the same thing. Joe, I agree with what you're saying about him, but I ain't going to say that publicly. It's completely changed, Michael.
I feel it.
Like there are now in the House and increasingly in the Senate and certainly in right-wing media, it now is primarily true believers. It really is. So they believe in what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's what really scares me. And I'm curious about being scared. We're seeing Trump going after his enemies in ways that are shocking. Jack Smith, Comey, you name it. Are you worried about that? Do you think you're on a list?
Every day? Well, I know I'm on a list. We knew that when he won. Every single day I worry about that. I went to my stepson got married in London. First time I was ever in London over Independence Day, July 4th. I worried about getting back into the country. Anybody in my position thinks about this kind of thing every day. I said I publicly turned against Trump 7 years ago. Michael, there's not a week that goes by that I don't still get death threats. Regular.
Wow.
Fairly serious. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past him or any of his people to go after as many of his public enemies as he can.
So everyone sees a crack in the movement right now, or at least that is what the media portrays. And that is, of course, the Epstein files and the Epstein controversy. And I mean, it's beyond apparent that Donald Trump had a long relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We won't get into all the gory details right here and right now. From what I understand of cults and cult think, I don't believe that the crack is real. I think, and with Trump, it's always after January 6th, there was a moment where there was a crack. And then I don't know what they've got, some sort of caulking or something. They fill it in so quick, it dries up and it's gone forever. I mean, January 6th is practically, it went from his darkest day to his best day. Like the whole reverse psychology thing where it's, Nancy Pelosi's fault and it's not Donald Trump's fault. And he was a hero on that day. Is the Jeffrey Epstein thing, is it an illusion? Is it a mirage?
I completely agree with you, Michael, and you're very smart. When January 6th happened, I was on the radio, right-wing radio all over the country, and there was a 3 to 4 day window there. 3 to 4 days, right after January 6th, where his most hardcore devoted followers contacted me and said, whoa, Joe, this is wrong. This is horrible. Trump fucked up. I'm done with him. This is scary shit. I'm talking about his most hardcore MAGA supporters
Yeah.
would say that to me. And then that window closed for a lot of reasons. This Epstein thing is, I just don't think it's anything. I've said this before. I believe it. If it comes out if there's hard, ironclad evidence in 2.5 months that Donald Trump is a pedophile and was with 12, 13-year-old girls, that would not hurt him at all among his base. He'd get hurt more, Michael, Trump would, if his base sensed that he was covering up the Epstein files, but they wouldn't care if he was a pedophile.
That rings true to me, and that scares the heck out of me. I've heard it said many times that the power grab that Donald Trump is doing and the executive power that he is exercising would not be happening if he thought, or the Republicans thought, they were ever going to give up the executive branch again. Does that ring true to you as well?
Yeah. Now, there are a lot of reasons why Trump and Vance and their people feel that way. They believe in authoritarianism. They control everything now, and it is a challenge to them. They want to keep total control. They also firmly believe the Democrats are impotent and incompetent, my new political party. And so they have no notion that the Democrats will ever go toe-to-toe with them and wrest power away from them. And then I guess the final piece, Michael, is they don't, and I need to really say this, because see, Trump's an idiot. Trump's an idiot. Trump just cares about Trump. Trump just thinks about Trump. Somebody had a really funny post the other day, like Trump would blow up our entire galaxy if he could get the Nobel. Like all Trump cares about is Trump.
I know.
But the smart people around him do not believe in the rule of law and do not believe and will not let the Constitution get in the way of what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was particularly taken back, and I thought it was a harbinger of exactly where we are when Steve Bannon was on Bill Maher. I don't know if you saw that. It's my weekly tradition of putting on Bill Maher and
Fuck Bill Maher.
Loud. I 100% agree. Screaming loudly enough at the TV for all the neighbors to hear. It's a Friday night tradition where neighbors are like, "What does he? Shut the fuck up, you goddamn!" But Bill Maher pulled out the Constitution, and he read the amendment. Now I'm forgetting which one it is that says you can only serve 2 terms. What is that?
22nd.
22nd. And it couldn't be more clear. And Steve Bannon said that, like the entire Constitution, is open to interpretation. And I said, if that is open to interpretation, we're screwed. That means the whole thing means nothing. If you can read into that where it says no person shall serve more than 2 terms, period, more or less, I don't have it in front of me. If that's open to interpretation, forget the Constitution. Forget it. We're screwed.
Michael, there was a Republican congressman from Tennessee, Andy Ogles, over the weekend who tweeted, "Screw it. Let Trump serve a 3rd term. Let him control DC. Let him serve in the White House for as long as he wants." A Republican member of Congress who 262 days ago raised his right hand and swore to support and defend the Constitution. The only thing that we've got going for us when they're talking about Trump running for a 3rd term is he's really fucking old and he's losing it upstairs. If Donald Trump were 5 years younger, he wouldn't be joking about running for a 3rd term. He'd be doing it, and he'd be running for it right now.
Yeah, I agree that his health doesn't look great. And, you know, people always used to say to me, they're like, oh, he's going to die. Look at him. And I always go, no. Like, you don't understand. Really rich guys don't die at the same age as middle class people. You know, you're thinking of your grandfather who died at 82. But Trump might actually buck that. I mean, Jimmy Carter made it to almost 100.
He could. He could. He's a big guy, and he's got a horrible diet. What I mean, though, is I don't think he wants to do it again.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, I don't think he wants to do it now, to be honest with you. Here's a crazy conspiracy theory I have. I think the ballroom is just a way of making it so he can move to Mar-a-Lago full time. Too noisy, construction noise, can't be president, moving to Mar-a-Lago full time. That's what I think the real motivation of the ballroom is, to be honest with you. The ballroom.
And by the way, that ballroom, Michael, that's a really interesting fight, because he'd have to go there's here we go again, a legal constitutional procedure and process to get something like that approved, and it takes years. And I know it's not as big a deal as some of the more fascist things he does, but he's hell-bent on this ballroom. And so he's going to try to defy everything that needs to be done to build something. And if he really breaks ground on a ballroom and desecrates that building, the People's House, without going through the proper years-long procedures, I think that's really, really going to be hellish. I mean, the American people are going to really be pissed.
Well, I would agree with that. So I want to get back to you saying I'm going to grab my musket.
Still my favorite tweet.
Best tweet ever. Grab that.
Well, you
musket.
know why, Michael? You know why? Because look, when you're a public figure like I am, and I was, you become a caricature, and people don't understand. Like, I probably tweeted 10,000 things I wish I could take back, but there was generally a method to my madness. When I on NBC, when I said that if Trump doesn't win, I'm grabbing my musket and charging the White House.
Yeah.
I was making fun. I mean, come on, grab a musket. What good could I do with an actual musket? But the whole point was that I'm going to defend freedom and the Constitution. I sent that tweet out 2 weeks before the 2016 election. I also sent a tweet out the morning of the 2016 election, and I said, no matter who wins today, I'm grabbing my musket and defending freedom and the rule of law. Nobody picked up on that tweet, so I was having fun.
I understand that, but we are reaching a point where I hear people say that they're going to grab their musket now. As a man that once said he was going to grab his musket, be it metaphorically or not, where is the line? Well, as a right winger, as a constitutionalist, this is all you ever hear when you debate the Second Amendment. And it cracks me up because I heard it for the last 20 years of my life. Oh, you liberals, you're going to be glad we got our guns when the government becomes tyrannical and there's masked, plainclothes men grabbing people off the streets and shoving them into unmarked cars and disappearing them into third world gulags. You're going to be glad we have our guns. And then the day comes and they're like, nah, they're actually grabbing the people we want grabbed off the streets. There are masked, plainclothes men grabbing people, and we're cool with it. But the whole point was you're going to be glad that day will come when the government becomes a tyrannical nightmare. You're going to be glad we have our guns. Well, is the government a tyrannical nightmare? And what do you say to the people that pick up on this old Republican talking point that when this happens, you grab your musket? Yeah.
And Michael, by the way, that old Republican talking point, that's still my talking point. I mean, I'm a Second Amendment diehard, as I'm a First Amendment diehard. And I believe our right to keep and bear arms is to protect us against tyranny, government tyranny. And as crazy as it sounds, I believe it is. We are the last line of defense. And to your point, I love right now throwing this back in the faces of all of my big Second Amendment tough guys back in the day who said the same damn thing. Joe, we got to keep our guns. You know, if tyranny's ever here, baby, we're the last line of defense. Like, I believe that. They told me they believe that. And as you said, tyranny is here. And these big Second Amendment guys are actually on the side of the tyrant. So utterly hypocritical. And I enjoy nothing more than to throw this one in their faces.
Yeah, I like to point out that America is starting to look a lot like my conservative Fox News watching uncle told me America would look if we elected Obama. Like, what happened? This is what you said was going to happen if we elected Obama, and now it's Trump, and you're okay with it. But I guess I want to push you just a little bit harder when I say that, like, here's a controversial opinion coming from the left. I feel like the protests do very little. I think they're performative in the face of fascism. And I'm curious, what is effective? What would be effective?
So I'll push back. I think everything serves a purpose. I've spoken at a number of the protests around the country. I think protests serve a purpose. What can we do? So we have a tyrant in the White House. One of our two major political parties is utterly fascist. How do we resist? How do we defeat it? We take to the streets and we protest. We vote. We defeat them at the ballot box. We take them to court. You mentioned the courts a while back. We take them to court. We do not have a legislative branch. We only got two branches of government right now. So we need the judiciary to do their things. But that's all not enough. Civil disobedience, Michael. Protesting is our right. Civil disobedience is probably the most powerful right a free man and a free woman has, to say no to or ignore their government or break a law peacefully. That day is upon us. And I'd also argue we are going to have to get in the faces of these men and women in uniform on our fucking streets, going after American citizens. We are going to increasingly get in the faces of these masked immigration cops. So all of that, and voting and getting and informing everybody in our circles and getting them out to vote.
Well, I certainly agree with the voting part. I love the civil disobedience part. Getting in the face of these ICE agents. I mean, it's about to get a lot worse. The budget has been ballooned for ICE and the age limit's been dropped, which means basically, and I hate to use these terms, but these 18-year-old MAGA bros, Jim going MAGA bro, Joe Rogan listening dudes, are about to have a badge and a gun. And I think that if you look at history, and I'm not afraid to go back to the 30s in Germany, although people are always like, oh, everything's Nazis to you. No, just Nazis, really, if I'm being honest. That is where you run into trouble, is when you got the young men with the bravado, the badge and the gun and the power of the state behind them. And we're about to have that when whatever batch they're brewing up right now of 18-year-olds are about to hit the street. And I think it's going to be trouble. And I don't think they're going to be afraid of we the people.
Well, you're right. And we're there. We are in trouble. We're there because these masked cops, some of the things they're saying, and they're ripping down signs. And I saw that ICE just got a bunch of new vehicles, and the word Trump is in or on the vehicles.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, just utterly unconstitutional shit. You talk about what can we do. I believe most rank and file military guys and most rank and file cops are Trump supporters or Trump adjacent. Not all. But we are at a point in this country now where we, the people, got to tell our men and women in uniform and our cops to say no to Trump, to say no to the tyrant. That's something we're going to have to do. We're talking scary stuff, Michael.
Yeah,
there still is more of us than them. There's more of us than men and women and troops and cops.
But the minute you say that, I'm reminded of all the arguments I've had with right wingers where we say there's more of us than you guys if you look at the numbers, and they go, but we got all the guns. And it's not just the ICE agents and the cops and the National Guard. It's your rank and file MAGA guy with a bunch of guns and an idea in his head that he's a patriot and this is what he has to do. This is where it gets scary and it gets super dangerous. I think we're on that precipice. I think we've maybe already stepped over it, but I don't think we've seen the exact consequences of it yet. But people feeling justified in grabbing their gun, going to a protest, and taking out some of these anti-American, American-hating liberals. It scares the crap out of me, Joe.
Because it's going to happen. And
see, I didn't want to say that, and you did say it. I believe it's going to happen. It's
going to happen. I knew January 6th was going to happen. This is going to happen. And it's my new political party, the Democratic Party, and I'm hearing from a lot of Democrats about getting guns and getting trained in how to use guns, and good. That's an important piece. But Michael, like cruelty. I was a border hawk. I am a border hawk. I'm a legal immigration. Let's increase legal immigrants into this country 100-fold. But what Trump is doing right now is utterly un-American, dark, fearful, and cruel, disappearing people off of our streets, immigrants who've lived here for 20 years. 30% of the voting population supports what Trump's doing. 70% don't. Even strong defend the border people, this is not what they want. This is not what America is. You go into a fucking Home Depot parking lot, you jump out of a van, you grab people. No, I've heard from enough people, Michael, in the last 2 months who voted for Trump. Granted, they're not hardcore MAGA, but a lot of people voted for Trump who are not hardcore MAGA. And they've told me, Joe, this is not what America is. You're a violent criminal and you're in this country illegally, get the hell out. But not an 82-year-old grandmother of an American Marine. So I think, by the way, that issue more than any other issue is going to lose the House and maybe the Senate for the Republicans in 26. So we outnumber them on that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about fascists is once you let them in, it's hard getting them out. And democracy, like I said, the vote doesn't seem to count. Okay, so you're a Democrat now. I just want to wrap it up.
Woo hoo hoo.
What do you think? Gavin's got he's got the wind in his sails. So much heat with Gavin Newsom right now. Is he the right call? Obviously, I think it is. I think we tack away from the left. I think it scares the middle right out of the Democratic column and into Trump's arms, and that a guy like Gavin Newsom might be the one to get behind.
So I became a Democrat because I believe my former political party is fascist. And I don't know how many years I've got left, but I'm going to use these years to fight. There's only one other party in town, and I'm going to work with that party to help that party defeat the fascist party. I want to move the Democratic Party more to the middle. I want to grab the Democratic Party by every fucking body part and help teach Democrats how to fight and meet this moment and be fucking authentic and learn how to talk with and listen to regular people again. That's a long-winded way of saying Gavin Newsom. I don't know. Gavin Newsom's biggest problem has always been authenticity. What is he? Is he a super lib? Is he because he's always been all over the map. He's slick. He's blah, blah, blah. Donald Trump gave him a gift a month and a half ago when he sent troops to LA. Another gift when Donald Trump called the governor of Texas and said, find me 5 more Republican seats. And that gave Gavin an opportunity to maybe fight back in California. So Trump has helped turn Gavin Newsom into a fighter. And I can tell you, Democratic voters want a fucking fighter more than they care about where that fighter comes from, the middle or the far left. Newsom's problem is, who the fuck is he? He's having his moment right now, but this too shall end. And then it's just going to be, is he authentic? Is he what are you, Gavin?
Yeah, I get that completely. It seems to me like we have to learn from our previous mistakes. And right now, the pendulum swings so far right that the natural progression is for it to swing all the way to the left. And I think we need to be smart enough to slow that swing. I think all the way to the left is what cements Trump's third term. So, anything that can bring us back to what I consider normalcy. What can I say? Middle-aged guy. And I liked it the way it was before. And I know we're never going back. Can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. But
but one more thing, Michael. Yeah. I also when I became a Democrat 2 months ago, I made a bet. Can and will the Democratic Party be a big enough tent for Socialist Democrat Zoran Mamdani and Conservative Democrat Joe Walsh? I think the party has to be a big tent. And like Joe Walsh couldn't win in New York City as a Democrat, Zoran Mamdani couldn't win down in South Carolina. Democrats got to realize this is a big, diverse country. You and I are old enough. We remember that animal called the Southern Democrat.
Yep.
Party's got to get this diversity of thought back.
I love that. And that is such a great note to close on. And as always, inspired by you, Joe. I thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, my friend.
We'll catch